Okay, we got a good video today. I'm actually at Andrea's work. She's been here for, I think, going on 6 weeks now. Her new place of work. She does hair, and she is self-employed. Um, and she's in a very nice salon. It's huge. It has like 25 different uh, salon, cosmetologists and people that do facials and all that good stuff. 25 booths. That is amazing. All right, so I'm sitting back here. Somebody's mowing the lawn now. That tends to happen to me sometimes. We're going to talk about the 7-year tribulation. Is it really the correct interpretation? Because you never really hear anyone in our church that much talk about this, do you? I never really heard Bruce R. McConkie really talk about this. I've never heard John A. Whitso. Never heard James E. Talmage. I never heard uh, Hugh Nibley or all the any of the eschatologists or apostles or general authorities talk about this. But amongst mainly evangelicals, right? Mainly evangelicals, they're the ones that believe in this. And this is found in Daniel chapter 9. And somebody brought it up to me on one of the videos, and for the life of me I can't find it. Can't find where he brought this up to me, but it wasn't something new. Okay? And here's what I'm saying. Maybe it's not a 7-year tribulation. Maybe this Daniel chapter 9 isn't talking about the Antichrist because we don't really teach in our church that there will be just one Antichrist, some big world dictator. I'm not saying it's not going to happen that way. All I'm saying is take a look at this. This might be talking about the Messiah, not the anti-Messiah. Okay? So I found something really sweet and simple because I was researching this a lot, and there were some pretty involved essays and commentary on this. But then I found a 9th grader by the name of Diego Fernandez from Queens Village, New York. And he wrote this, and it's pretty interesting. And I will leave the link. But let's read and comment. Let's talk about this. Is it a 7-year tribulation or not? It is argued, I'm going to read and comment on this, excuse me. It is argued amongst Christians if the 7-year tribulation of the prophetic end times is a true interpretation. Wait, did I read that right? It is argued amongst Christians. Okay, remember this is a 9th grader, and he even misspelled angels, which is okay, but the substance is good. Okay, the substance is interesting. First of all, it's not really a 7-year tribulation, right? We say 3.5 years of peace, and then 3.5 years of being under the of tyranny, I guess, and Christians being killed. But it's argued that the prophetic end times is the 7-year tribulation is true. In fact, this futuristic view is not the most popular and most believed amongst Christians today. The idea of a 7-year tribulation comes from a misinterpretation, and this is this person's interpretation and others, a misinterpretation of Daniel chapter 9, which is a prophecy about the Messiah. So if you read it, it kind of unfolds like it's a Messiah, not the Antichrist or a 7-year tribulation. So in Daniel chapter 9, the Jewish people are still in Babylonian captivity, right? There was a Jewish man by the name of Daniel, and he loved God a lot. He's a prophet, all right? I'm reading this. These are the words of a 9th grader, remember that. Daniel was praying in the first half of this chapter, and it is at verse 24 where the prophecy begins. So we know he wasn't just a Jewish man. We know he was a prophet, right? So here's chapter 9, Daniel 9, verses 24 through 27 in the King James Version. Listen carefully. 70 weeks are determined upon thy people and upon thy holy city, to finish the transgression and to make an end of sins. Could that be the atonement? Is this talking about Christ, the Messiah, who will come to make an end of transgression and the end of sins, or the end of sacrifices, right? Carnal sacrifices? And to make reconciliation for iniquity, and to bring in everlasting righteousness, and to seal up the vision and prophecy, and to anoint the most holy. Know therefore and understand that from the going forth of the commandment to restore and to build Jerusalem unto the Messiah the Prince shall be 7 weeks, and 62 weeks. The street shall be built again, and the wall even in troublous times. And after 62 weeks shall Messiah be cut off, but not for himself. And the people of the prince that shall come shall destroy the city and the sanctuary. And the end thereof shall be with a flood. And unto the end of the war desolations are determined. And he shall confirm the covenant with many for 1 week. And in the midst of the week he shall cause the sacrifice and the oblation to cease. Did not Christ come to fulfill that law? And in the midst of the week he shall cause the all right, I already read that, sorry. And for the overspreading of abominations he shall make it desolate. What is that really implying there? Think about it. Even until the consummation and that determined shall be poured upon the desolate. That's chapter 9, verses 24 through 27. So here, the angel Gabriel, okay, so he spelled it angle, but he's in 9th grade, okay, and whoever published this for him on this did not change the spelling, but it's cute. I thought it was cute. So the angel Gabriel explains what must happen in this prophecy. Now this time is not literal. 70 weeks is about more than a year, and the Jews were in Babylon longer than a year, right? So what can this mean? Well, the Bible has the answer. In Ezekiel chapter 4, verse 6, it states, "And when thou hast accomplished them, lie again on thy right side, and thou shalt bear the iniquity of the house of Judah 40 days. I have appointed thee each year for a year." Ezekiel chapter 4, verses 6. And that's the King James Version. Ezekiel is a prophetic book. So, when relating with time, one prophetical day equals 1 literal year. So what is the time period that the angel Gabriel explains? Let's do the math. 70 weeks times 7 days, and each week equals 490, all right? Now, we also know that we just talked about in Come Follow Me, the 7 times 70 also equals 400. 70 times 7 is also 490, which means basically endless. 7 is perfection, divinity or perfection, and 10 is completion, right? Using the day for a year principle, this results to 490 years. God has given ancient Israel as the angel clearly states. So when does this prophecy of the Messiah begin? The angel has the answer. He said, "Know therefore and understand that from the going forth of the commandment to restore and to build Jerusalem unto the Messiah, the Prince shall be 7 weeks and 62 weeks." Daniel 9:24. So from the going forth of the command to restore and build Jerusalem is when the prophecy would start. This command came in 457 BC when the Persian king made a decree allowing this to happen. So 457 BC is the starting point. Now the angel says 7 weeks, 62 weeks, or 62 weeks. So 62 plus 7 equals 69 weeks. This is equivalent to 483 days. And using the day for a year principle, 483 years. So remember, years in BC go down while AD goes up, right? BC decreases, and then we start over with AD going the other way, right? But there is a problem. You also need to remember that there is no year zero, right? It goes from 1 BC to 1 AD. So you need to add a year. Now, mind you, this is interesting theory that this young man has, and he's not the only one, right? So, I mean, a lot of this could be symbolic, right? And some of it might not be pertinent, but we'll see, we'll look at it and think about it, right? So this is equivalent to 483 days, and using the day for a year principle, 483 years. Okay, we already read that, sorry. So subtract 483 from 457. 457 minus 483 equals 26. So converting to AD, that is 26 AD. But there is a problem. You also need to remember that there is no year zero. We already read that. Why am I reading that again? It goes from 1 BC to 1 AD, so you need to add a year. This leads to 27 AD. Now this is when the Messiah would arrive on the scene. Now we can find in Luke chapter 3, it states the following. Now on the 15th year of the reign of Tiberius Caesar, Pontius Pilate being governor of Judea, and Herod being tetrarch of Galilee, and his brother Philip, tetrarch of Iturea, am I pronouncing that right? Iturea, and of the region of Trachonitis. I've got trachonitis. Trachonitis, I don't know. And Lysanias, the tetrarch of Abilene, Annas, and Caiaphas, being the high priests. The word of God came unto John, the son of Zacharias, in the wilderness. Luke 3, 1 through 2. So, here is where some people may see a problem. There is a lot of date mixing with the 15th year of Tiberius' reign, since he officially became Roman emperor by himself in 14 AD. 14 AD. People start it there, and that would bring us to 29 AD. Okay. However, there is one fact to consider. Tiberius was made co-regent or co-ruler alongside Augustus, the Roman emperor who succeeded him. Tiberius began being co-ruler in 12 AD. Add 15 years to 12 AD and it reaches 27 AD, which many actually believe was the baptism of Jesus Christ. Therefore, anointing him as the Messiah, and he began his ministry. Now, the last week is where everything gets crazy. This is where people get a 7-year tribulation. From that's where they use the day for year principle. Yet they do not use it for the first big chunk. Just this little part to go with their false interpretation. This is cherry picking from the Bible. So what is the real interpretation? Well, it says the Messiah shall be cut off, and in the midst of the week, the last, he will cause the sacrifice and oblation to cease, and he shall confirm the covenant. You see, there is no indication if this talks about the Antichrist. The only person mentioned before the actions is the Messiah. Most Christians today think the Antichrist will make a covenant with the Jews. Yet this prophecy is about the coming of the Messiah and his sacrifice. It says in the middle of the week, or 7 literal years. Oh, is 3.5, right? So Jesus did preach the gospel for 3.5 years. This would lead to 31, since the half of the year would reach to 31 AD or sometime around that. After these 3.5 years, he was killed, as it says, Messiah shall be cut off or killed. Then shall cause the sacrifices to stop. What does that mean? It means the old Mosaic sacrificial system was over. Indeed, Jesus established the new covenant with the blood he shed on the cross for all humanity, and we know in the Garden of Gethsemane, right? And a lot of the world doesn't understand that the atonement was not just on the cross, but also the night before. Now, what about the other half, the last 3.5 years? That was the time that the apostles of Jesus preached mainly to the Jews to give them more time to accept Christ as the Messiah. At this time, they rejected the message, and it is debatable, but in one of the years from 33, 34 AD, 35 or 36 AD, however, with accuracy of the prophecy, 34 AD would be the most accurate choice. And remember, some like Von J. Featherstone believe that 2033 will be around the time that Christ comes again, from about that time, almost 2,000 years ago, right? And after his mission was complete and he was resurrected. We can now see the brilliance or Christian prophecy and how God planned this out. Jesus' sacrifice and mercy and love is enough to save the very worst of sinners. Will you accept it, friends? I sure hope that you do. This was by, and I'll leave the link, Benjamin in Cardozo High School. That's where he went. Queens Village, New York. His name was Diego Fernandez in 9th grade. Okay, and that was published March 29th, 2021. So it's not an exact science that he was 30 years old when he started his ministry. Some say it was around 30. Some say it was 27. Some say 28. Some say 29. But within that 6-7 year, maybe his ministry was 7 years. I don't know. And there could be a lot of substance to this. So we do know from the time that he officially started his ministry till the end of his when he was crucified and resurrected, it was 3.5 years. So it could have been from 27, 28, 29, 30, 31. But it's interesting that like people like Von J. Featherstone says that it could be roughly around 2033, maybe 2031. Maybe we're way off on that too. I don't know. I just thought this was cool to check it out and contemplate on the things that might be, because we don't really know. We don't know everything, right? President Dallin H. Oaks said, we don't know everything. When one man stands up and says something, it doesn't mean it's actually true. But I digress. I could be wrong on the years of his ministry. But, yeah. Put that in your book.